Very interesting. Okay, I'm gonna have to explore this in a little more detail because I'm pretty much at a dead end when it comes to the Oculus Quest at work. I just every avenue I have, the hardware is either not there, and what's funny is the Windows laptops they give us, the Dell laptops, they are not powerful enough. They don't have a good enough graphics card. Steam VR doesn't even like them. It's like it says, nope, we're not going to let you run VR on this because you don't meet the minimum bar. So, but the MacBooks have a really good, graphics AMD in there, and it will work, but there's no Steam VR support. And the only thing I could do is maybe do a dual boot, but then if I do dual boot to Windows on a MacBook to get the support, then there's a problem with whole disk encryption that doesn't pass security standards, so they're not allowing us to run boot camp or anything. So I'm just, and of course the native Android Vircadia client, I would need a VPN, and there's no easy way for that either. So it's like every avenue I've tried to get Oculus into the into my group inside our firewall, I just get blocked every time. I can't find a good solution. So maybe this will work. We'll see.
You'll have to find out what the current Oculus SDK version we use and what's the latest one that Oculus has and what's involved in updating.
Yeah, hopefully there's some more documentation in either in the code or somewhere else, like that recipe file that we found for Android, like found at the last minute how to build Qt for Android. It was like way tucked away in some subdirectory somewhere. So anyway, well, maybe we'll get started. This will be a really short conversation, and we can branch off into other discussions if need be. Oh, good, Steve's going to join. I think he would like this discussion. Seeing a lot of anonymous folks also around the island every now and then, which is good. But they're not very sociable. They don't talk much. They just run around and do nothing. They like I said, they have minimal support right now on the development side, but I don't know if that includes other kinds of drivers and devices. I mean, there was Mac support for Steam VR like 2 years ago, so I would think that Oculus might have tried to jump on the Mac bandwagon back then, but I don't know. I'll have to look. Yeah, so the driver, well, the driver that is documented, let me see, I'll go to the build tools. Or was it? Was it in? No, not in the Qt. It was in. Yeah, right here. So CMake dependencies. So Oculus SDK 1.1.1, and there is a Mac 0.5. Yeah, yeah. So maybe there's minimal support. Anyway, I'll have to, like I said, I'll look into it a little bit more. We'll see.
Yeah, it would have been before Steam VR support was added to Vircadia.
right? Oh well. Well, hey, if it works, then I'm still fine. I'm fine with 0.5. I'll take that. But
But didn't you, Dave? Didn't you say that on the Oculus site you've saw that there were more recent SDKs?
well, there are, but I saw like Android and Windows, but I didn't see anything regarding Mac. I think Kalila just looked, and there isn't anything else for Mac for download. So that's why it was weird. So maybe this did get deprecated, this library, 0.5.
But Dave, I thought you said just before that you had Oculus running on Macs doing stuff
Well,
right now.
there's a developer hub. So there's a developer portal kind of experience for Mac users where you can plug your Oculus in through USB 3 and it'll see it, it'll connect with it. You can do the debugging, all the debugging stuff through that tool. But I don't know
Are
if
you
that would
talking?
come with.
Are you talking about Quest or CV2? Or
I'm
there?
talking about let me see. Well, this is Developer Hub for Windows, but there should be. The tool is compatible with Windows and Mac OS operating systems. So it's whatever this um, I mean, it might not be full-fledged SDK API. This might be just the developer hub. What's that other one? Yeah. It might just be a UI to do like very basic, like I said, kind of debugging of native apps. So maybe if you were doing Android development on Mac, you could use this to do some debugging. But I don't think it's a full-fledged API. Like I said, well, I'll look into it a little bit more now that I know that there's this, but yeah, 0.5 beta. Beta. This is available version, not been updated,
Wait, hold up.
compatible.
Your
Yeah.
audio.
Oh,
It's fixed now. It's fixed now.
compatible with pre-CV1 only. So it's not compatible with the Quest. I think that answers it right there. And they haven't done anything else for it. Well, anyway, shorter discussion today about virtual events. Let's skip back over to the topic. So I put this out in the chat before. There is this. So this past week has been the Chinese New Year and or Lunar New Year, however you want to say it. Maybe I'm not sure which one it is, or maybe it's the same thing. And as part of the cultural diversity, there've been a lot of these like events this week running at my company. And one of those events, they said that they were going to have a virtual 3D kind of interaction or showcase. And they gave a link to this VEL. And there was a meeting on Friday that said a virtual event, and I went to it and it was Zoom only. So I think either they bailed on this or maybe something else is going to happen later, or I missed it. I could not find a meeting invite that had this thing in there. And this is kind of really interesting, really weird. This looks like a side project for the guys who all have other jobs. I looked them up. They're all so this is kind of like a side business.
Wait, why do I
But
think I've seen this before? Wait.
you
Isn't
you
this the
saw
one
it.
your
You saw it.
company?
Yes.
Interesting, it was all Zoom?
So they didn't have it, is what I'm saying. They I thought by now there was a meeting scheduled on my calendar for Friday where we were supposed to have a virtual event, and the virtual event turned out to be just a Zoom event. So I don't know if it was basically a naming snafu, whoever set up that meeting. I don't know what happened, if they dropped this or if it's still going to happen or not, but we didn't have it. So I thought I would talk about the experience and what it was like in this meeting here, but it never happened. So that's why I was saying it'll be a shorter discussion today, but it's still interesting that I think it's something that we can chat about and come back to as a regular topic of how Vircadia could be used to host, virtual business events, similar to, very similar to what Steve has been doing with the NDN world and such. And when I looked at this company, VEL, like I said, it's literally just like 4 people, and it looks like it's their part-time job, and they set this up. And for them to get some sort of engagement with my company, and I don't know, maybe it's a friend of somebody who knows them and hired them, and I don't even know if it worked out, but it's just very interesting to see that something like this come about. But yeah, I think I can play this video and we'll see. Let me switch over the sound, but I don't think anybody was very impressed. Yeah, so
I'm very impressed.
I mean, it looks even, it doesn't even look like it's an actual 3D environment. It looks like it's one of those 360, you move your mouse and you go to the new camera position, and then you get a different 360 panorama.
Well, that's why I said
But
they should just use Google Maps. I mean, I feel like it's very interactive.
yeah,
Wait, didn't someone
but
put multiplayer on Google Maps? I could have sworn that happened before. Huh.
really?
Might have been, but like a little project, but that would serve as a better virtual event, maybe. Oh, maybe that's something else. Never mind, that's not what I was thinking.
Okay.
I feel like somebody like demoed it before, but I don't know.
Well, anyway, it got me thinking, like, if like a small company like this with a pretty, low bar could get some sort of engagement with the folks at my company, the HR folks at my company, then there should be a way that we could do the same for other, if we had a compelling offering. And just using the site as an example, how they just talk to the different use cases. And like I said, I'm pretty sure they have a small group. But I'm curious. It's too bad I couldn't actually get to see what they're doing, because my real curiosity was around what is their technological requirements. Like, is this probably this is a in browser only. It's probably no app. And like I said, probably a 3D panorama, but so that lowers the bar, so people don't have to install anything. It can work with pretty much any laptop or desktop PC, regardless of how old it is or what graphics card you have, if it's something like that, if it's an in-browser. But and those are actually important factors when it comes to catering to sort of a corporate audience, because hardware requirements they vary greatly from the the admins to hardcore developers. You could have really good machines and you could have really crappy machines, but for events like this, corporate-wide events, one of the key features is it's got to be accessible to all.
I agree.
Right. So I started, let's see. So just before we joined, what I thought we could do. Well, first of all, any thoughts on this? And Steve, any thoughts from you on virtual business events?
I still have a more narrow sort of roadmap or product roadmap, which is where you were before on screen share, collaboration tools, things like that. So I actually wanted to ask you about the way you're sharing right now after you're done here. But for me, that's the only thing holding us back. I know among Vircadia, there are some higher standards. People suggesting, well, we need to do a little bit more, but I'm basically ready to go. The only thing that holds me back, and I'll stop with this, is the only other thing is the signing of the application, which everyone else here knows. You might have heard me say it too, Dave. I'm on a mission to get both sides signed, Mac and Windows. And after that, I think we're good to start really chasing this.
Oh, certainly that'll help. And the the collaboration part, screen sharing and sound and everybody seeing the same thing that I'm showing rather than having an individual browser experience for everybody like Webrtc, I think is important. But I see that, yeah, that's more of the meeting collaboration like experience. What I'm referring to here from an event thing is more of a just get people in to talk to each other, to walk around, to present, like one or present is the wrong word, to orate a narrative or a story, get up in front of imagine like an auditorium, and there's just one person on stage who's talking about something, and that's pretty much what this Lunar New Year event was, where it was Zoom and they just had the leaders of our company who were part of the Asian I'm not sure what you even call them, some sort of Asian business society, just talk through their experiences of growing up in America, maybe some biases that they faced, how they overcame them, how they get resources for other, how Asian Americans can get resources and help one another. So it was that kind of theme and vibe. So there wasn't really a big, heavy presentation or PowerPoint or anything like that. It was basically just somebody speaking directly into a Zoom camera and taking turns, and maybe answering questions via chat. So I would call it very minimal for that, versus what what they were sort of saying was going to happen with this virtual event, which is more of maybe you walk around a floor, so to speak, and look at presentations on the walls. Maybe they'd be interactive, maybe they wouldn't. That'd kind of be the next layer of interaction. But they would be able to see each other in the context of that presentation and talk to each other, which I think is the primary sort of collaboration, the very minimal that they were probably shooting for with a platform like this.
That's a easier standard to hit than even what I was talking about.
Oh, completely, yeah. So, I mean, in that context, if we had a solution and an offering for, corporations who wanted to do something like this while taking advantage of this, time we're all still locked down and semi-lockdown in COVID, that maybe is something we should think about and explore. The challenge, though, would be, as I said before, how do we have a level playing field regardless of the, number one, the technical ability of the person participating in the event, number two, the hardware that they have available to them. So is there, I hate to say lower the bar for everybody, but that's kind of what would, I think, have to happen, and probably why this VEL company is maybe or a little company that may be successful in that aspect, that they can support pretty much anybody and anything and anywhere if it's maybe like in a browser or something. So I don't know, have we ever thought about a lighter weight client, a front end client, rendering client to Vircadia as the back end server?
Yes, but it's really tricky to like figure out what's going on. I think that we have a tremendous lack of statistics, basically. Um, so as you know, the Vircadia client can be scaled down to work on an Android phone, right? That's been done before. You know, High Fidelity did it. We never built it, but it worked, right? It was the same interface, just wrapped with Android, and it worked. It scaled down all the way from what we're running like an 8-core computer down to a little small cell phone running on who knows how many watts. Um, so it's possible. And what kind of irks me is that people with a desktop computer complain about performance. So it's kind of hard to figure out which ones are legitimate, because it could be something as simple as having your laptop set to power saving mode, which downclocks everything and drops performance to nil, basically, and you're going to try and run something that's very intensive. Well, all of a sudden it's not doing so well. And then there's also the problem of, okay, maybe it is the system just incorrectly scaling, because if it's targeting Android, it knows to scale down maybe. But if it's targeting a PC, maybe it puts way too much higher, you know? If there were, I guess I have to do performance profiling, but if there are parts of the system that can be turned off for like a viewer only experience to increase performance, I would do that. You know, I would put flags and would look into creating cut down viewer, but I haven't had the opportunity to really launch this using test tools and test suites to try and find out what's going on. But it would have been nice to get kind of accurate reports, because I would always get like the sweeping reports that, oh gosh, you need to have a gaming computer first and foremost. And I know that's not true. Well, at least it wasn't, and I don't really know what's changed. So I just think that there's a lot of misconfigurations as well. And so it kind of messes up the pool of statistics. Now I really have no idea what's true. I actually have no idea if something has changed to where we can't run this on ThinkPads anymore, or if people have just been doing it wrong, or if the presets for the settings are just too high at the start. It's really hard to tell. So I feel like as developers, we have to actually like pull out some kind of old or kind of slow computers and just test it ourselves to kind of prove it. Um, because it's really hard to tell. Because this is a highly
Yeah,
compatible platform as is.
it is. No, this is very, I mean, I'm very impressed with it. I could still run this client, even the latest client, on my 2014 MacBook Pro, which has, it actually might have an NVIDIA graphics chipset in there. I forget.
Really?
So, I mean, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, 2013, 2014. And that was when I first, with that MacBook, that was the first one that when I first joined, or I started looking at high fidelity back then, was around 2013. And it ran, I mean, it wasn't the fastest thing in the world, but it connected and it rendered everything. And
So your
I was impressed.
2013
And
MacBook Pro ran on this version?
I have the last one, I think the first, it was one of the ones when you change the numbering scheme to year dot something, 2020 dot something was I think the last
Was a
one that
long time ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
We
that
should
was the
try
last one
again.
that I ran. Yeah,
Yeah.
happy to do that. I can do that right after this.
Well, if you could
But
also take a
I made,
picture, sorry.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, of your specs. I wanted to see exactly what's in that. Like what's the exact models of the CPU and the GPU. I just want to understand better
Yep.
what's going on.
Yeah, I can totally do that. Yeah, every machine, like even the work laptops, the Windows Dells, the crappy Dells, they've all, even these like 5-6-year-old desktop machines that we still have, like I have under my desk at work. And that one even has like a really weird, I think it is NVIDIA 2000 or something. It's some sort of old chipset. It ran this. In fact, I've used it as a bot screen. Yeah.
Seriously?
So so I use it as my in video. That's what for my Zoom presentation. I would have my desktop machine underneath my desk in our corporate office, acting as the Zoom camera, pointing out and recording the room itself, and that would be a participant in the Zoom meeting, as well as individuals. But yeah, I can even get you that spec if you want that one.
That would be very helpful. I think we kind of need a little bit of a multi-person effort, you know, to whoever has like multiple slower computers to basically test these things out, because I really don't think we should be saying that, oh, this requires a gaming computer if it doesn't. The only trick is that, oh, if you have to run it on low, then the environment has to be lit in such a way or have baked in lighting as to just work, right? And that's okay. If we're going to host a convention, host a business meeting or whatever, then yeah, why the heck not? Why don't we just bake it in? Like, we don't need it to be dynamic. They're just here for the festivities, right? They just need to get in and not crash. So if we can do that, then yeah, I don't see why the heck not. I just think that we've not had the best information because, yeah, everyone with different setups that aren't tech savvy, they wouldn't really know to check something. You know, like is it this or is it that, or are my settings kind of weird? What we can do on our end though is tell them to check that, and also to give them better presets, because if our presets are scaling it up to like medium or high, when in reality it should be low, that's also going to give someone a pretty bad experience. Or for example, if it's low and they're used to the video game logic of low means faster, then they're going to be like, why is this on low and it's running terribly? And then I switch it to high and it still runs terribly. Either way, you're going to get a really laggy experience. So that's also bad. We have to fix that as well.
Well, I mean, even if we fix these pieces. Oh, sorry, David, were you going to say something?
I was just going to note that one of the differences between the Android and desktop compiles is that Android compiles doesn't that use a lightweight OpenGL version.
Oh,
interesting.
well, that's interesting. I wonder how much difference there is.
OpenGL ES or something. Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
I wonder if
it
we
is,
could...
and there's a couple versions of it. Like I think it's 2.0 is what it's compiling under, so it's an even really old version. I think the latest is 3.2. I noticed that when I was doing my builds that it's still compiling under the oldest OpenGS lightweight version.
I wonder if we could compile a desktop version using OpenGS and see what that does as an experiment.
Possibly, but we have to remember that a lot of the usage on Vircadia is also CPU limited. So
yeah,
I guess
that's
it's
for
low.
sure.
Let me drop my graphics to low actually. Where's my graphics button? If I set this to low, it doesn't even look half bad actually. But okay, we're at 23%. It basically cut my GPU usage in half, but my CPU is still at, well, five. Oh yeah, you know what? Lowering the FPS does save a lot of CPU. A lot of CPU gets saved by lowering the FPS. I put this back up to real time. We're at about 15.5%, 20%. Yeah, so I guess the frame rate really starts taking more out of it.
So although I'm confident we could be able to support older hardware with this client, I think to Steve's point, having a signed client is really pointing to the bigger issue, which is getting like employees of a corporation to install this for like a one-time event is not going to happen. I mean, it just so happens our company uses Zoom for meetings, so everybody has it by default. Like it's part of our desktop build. It's part of our software distribution, internal software distribution mechanism where it can deploy it on everybody's machines, even at night, even when they're not there or something like that. It would be much more difficult to get a standalone client like this installed on everybody's machines, which is why I'm wondering, is there an even lighter weight sort of embedded browser renderer that could possibly work with this too? And I don't know if something like Mozilla Hubs has been, I think, trying stuff like this directly in the browser.
It can, but it's I guess a lot of work to connect the two. I mean, Hubs is Hubs and it works really well, but it also has quite a minimal feature set. Maybe that simplicity is what makes it attractive to the people that do use it, but it gets tricky when you want to customize a sort of event. You really got to fork the thing. I think that's what Mozilla said, that you have to fork the thing if you want to add in all these features that you think are missing. So, you know.
Good point. And OpenXR, like I don't know to the extent I don't know if Mozilla Hubs development is still going on or not, but to the extent of OpenXR being this kind of platform agnostic, rendering architecture or layer
More like
description
connection
rather.
layer, right? Vulkan is what you really want if you want to make things super fast and just better overall. But yeah, no small task. I mean, so there you can invest in many areas. You can invest in, say, Vulkan. You can invest in trying to tune down the system as is, or maybe both. I mean, um, maybe your company may not be such a fan of installing the software for one time, but another one might, right? Because pretty much every decent conferencing software usually requires you to download. And heck, I'm not even sure why Zoom loves to do it so much. I guess the web version works, but there's performance and usability issues, so they would prefer people just download it anyway, which I thought was kind of odd. Um, so I'm not too worried about downloads if we offer a good experience, a good consistent experience in general. Because everyone's always used to downloading stuff, since Windows XP days all the way up to now, those people are always
Yeah.
know that you have to download something, right? So they're really not expecting
Yep.
anything else. So we just have to make a compelling and usable experience, really. But I think what's the issue is that we kind of, well, I don't know, destroy their computers. It's really weird. It's really weird. Oh,
No,
you know what?
completely true.
Oh,
What?
I'm sorry. I was just thinking, like, oh my gosh, like metrics. Imagine if like we made like a hash or something, some kind of like code that if they copy it, they could paste it in, and it's like if we decode it, it tells us all of their settings, like their graphics settings. So we could ask them, hey, you're lagging, copy and paste this to me. And there's like also one that could just snapshot their their computers specs, because a lot of people don't really know what their computer's even running or what their settings are set to. But that might be interesting. I wonder. Huh?
Yeah, from a Vircadia setting standpoint, I'm sure we can implement something like that. But I don't know if there's something standard for every operating system to list all the resources.
Well, we have APIs that. Are you on Mac right now, or?
No, I'm on my Windows machine right now since
Oh,
I'm doing the sharing.
okay. Because I was going to say that you could run a command in the scripting console to use the API to retrieve your CPU. Let me get you an example. I think it's under platform info. Maybe did this not too long ago. Okay. Okay. So platform info dot get GPU. We do that. Oh shoot. How? Wow. Too few arguments. index. Okay. I'm gonna do 0 then. I only have one GPU anyway.
What did you say? .0 at the end of that?
No, you put a 0 in, like, okay, platform,
In the
info, yeah, get GPU, 0.
Oh
And
yeah, I got a output.
mhm. So maybe something like that. Maybe something like that. Or maybe just something that like sends it, that just packages it up into something you can copy and paste to a developer. That that would
Yeah,
be
all it
good.
knows is my video card. Yeah.
Yeah, so if that worked on Mac, I would be really happy.
No. Oh, if it did, okay. I'd have to try
Yeah.
that on my Mac. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It would
So
help.
yeah, I don't definitely. So I guess just to steer this back to virtual events, I think it's a good point that you made that there are companies that probably don't have as strict a security policy or IT policy for installing kind of like one-off for events and stuff like that. In
Mhm.
which case there's still a population out there that could be wanting to run stuff like this. I guess I'm more representative of a Fortune 500 company that has more strict standards, and I don't know if I'd call it a lower bar, maybe.
Mhm.
That if that was met, it would be super successful, an offering like that. But we'll see. I just wanted to throw it out there to say that I thought it was interesting that 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 my company was trying to set up this virtual event, and I was just curious how they were going to do it, how they were going to tackle the challenges of getting everybody into it, and where it was going to run, browser or where it has to be browser. I can't think of anywhere else how it would work,
Mhm.
and what level of interactivity were they going to get out of it, and what did people think about it. So if it does come out in the next week, I think there's still some post Lunar New Year things happening at my company next week, maybe some more talks. I'll definitely let you guys know, and maybe try to take some video or I guess I can't take video, but I'll just kind of give you guys a summary. But I did do a quick, so back in the Second Life days, this was a big topic, having virtual events in Second Life, and I know that there are a ton of companies that were doing that, and Second Life has its own challenges. Similar to Vircadia, where you've got to install the client and such. And then there's security and privacy concerns with Second Life. But if I just did like a 3D virtual business events search in Google, I see like a bunch of these, people are paying for AdSense right here. And these first ones, even though I say 3D virtual business events, these first three have no type of 3D at all. It's just well, maybe they called it, I think one of them called it like 2.5D. But like this one,
What's that? 2.5D.
2.5D, it means they have a 3D representation of a conference room with like areas, but it's a flat image, and you just click on that area and you go to that location, and something happens there.
Huh.
So it's still a full browser-based experience, flat browser-based experience, but with a 3D rendering of something that looks like it's a game. So that's why they called it 2.5D.
That's interesting.
And this was the only one that said 3D in its title, and then even this one I think is similar to that. What is Imagine? I was just looking at this video here. I'll spare you the crappy audio.
Okay, you want to like
See,
allow the cookies or not?
use
Use
unnecessary cookies
necessary.
only. And a lot of these events have things like, customization for the client that is asking for it. So logos and special sort of places where they could sit.
But there's no 3D.
Well,
Right?
this one, I think it's exactly, I think this is the same, where it just has these images of 3D, but once you get there, it's kind of like it's mostly an audio kind of experience, shared audio experience with a chat on the side or something.
Ah, that was the real
Yeah, see,
experience
like,
right there.
yes, yeah, see. So It's funny, and this was the one that actually said 3D in its title, at least for the top AdSense ones. When I started going down further, let me see. So that was that one. This was Virtuaway. Which one was that? I didn't try playing this video before. This is the other common one that I see. So I don't know if you guys, I mean, maybe Dale remembers this since he's an old timer on the Second Life platform, but prior to Second Life, the biggest virtual world was called Active Worlds. And these kinds of avatars and scenes totally remind me of Active Worlds. I don't know, Dale, if you remember, or if you were ever a part of that community, but it's pretty.
I used it for a very short time, yeah. But performance was really horrible, and we kind of quickly found about Second Life, so I moved over.
Yeah. Second Life just overshadowed this completely, but this totally reminds me of Active Worlds, and in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't some sort of offshoot from that. But I think there's a lot of companies out there that are doing this kind of user experience, as you see here, where nothing is really, everything is flat shaded. There's no dynamic lighting on anything, just polygonal, texturing. But they're doing it inside a browser, I think is what they're doing here.
I think Active Worlds is still a thing, actually.
I'm pretty sure it still is too. They're a community that won't die.
What are you, like, trying to kill them or something?
No, as in like they took huge offense to Second Life in any comparison between them and Second Life, and they're a real fickle community, is all I remember. Because a couple companies ago, I worked at a project that used Active Worlds, and it was interesting. I'll just say it worked, and we had business meetings in Active Worlds, and we had our own server and stuff like that. But it was just very, very, very basic.
That one's a bit tricky though. Like, I mean, from the video showed for that one, it didn't look terrible. I mean, to me it looks terrible, obviously, but for the use case, right? The use case of, oh, you need to hop in world and talk and see stuff and interact. Well, I mean, it seemed to have been working. So I don't know if we want to compete with that directly, because then it's like, well, now we're both doing it. Um,
Right.
I don't really know what we would do that much different. I mean, we would do things differently, obviously. It would look better, but I don't feel like it's like a value add that much more that's just worth using Vircadia to do something simple like that. We would want to think about events and worlds and use cases that are kind of unique that only we would be able to do, and then provide value that way. I'm looking at the video. I'm trying to understand because, like, can everyone talk? And why are the avatars always so wonky?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, they're all they all use the same. There's only one set of walk animations, wave animations, and everything, and it's just a very blocky. You just retexture the avatar and their skin with yeah, look, this guy sees he's using it right there. So it's not clear to me if this is a Active Worlds kind of application on its own, or if this is a web embedded browser experience. But I've seen embedded browser experiences that look similar to this. But yeah, it's obviously there's a the advantage that I would like to highlight for Vircadia is that it's compatible with like real VR, with Oculus headsets and stuff like that. I think that makes a much more powerful value, at least from an interactive standpoint. Like you remember that? You remember that? I mean, where was that? It was like Wall Street Journal. I'm gonna go.
But you have to remember though that anyone attending any of these events doesn't use VR, much less if maybe hasn't even heard of it.
Uh,
Oh, it's cool, dude. This is a good ad. What are you talking about?
yeah,
presenters
I'm
could be
trying
in.
to. It's like screaming in my ear.
The
Yeah,
presenters could still be in VR, which adds to the presence of them as viewed by the company people.
That is true. Plus, our worlds are prettier. I would actually have to say Vircadia's worlds are the prettiest in the whole industry in terms of offering that kind of thing, but then also offering quality. Yeah, but you know, you gotta have like a
yeah, I'd
half-decent
agree.
computer to do that. Although I must say, you know, employing good design principles like such as that which they did at the hub here really helps. So.
Yeah, completely agree. I think this is very compelling, especially with Wall Street Journal did this article, this video flew around just for like a day or two inside our corporate like Slack channels. Everybody was like, wow, this is all so cool. This is the future of meeting. And I was like, well, I know a platform that can do this. It's not the same one that's in the video here. This is Spatial is that company.
What do you
But
tell them? Oh, I mean, what did they say? Sorry.
what'd they say? They said show me, and I did. That's when I did the hackathon in Skunkworks, and I did my own video of this that I can't show you guys, but it was very similar to this. But unfortunately, like I said, we're having a problem getting the Oculus connecting to our intranet. I can get it connecting to my local domain, no problem, and do like, you know, showing what it would be like if this was installed behind the firewall. And I do have a version, as you know, installed behind the firewall, but there's just no Oculus. Nobody's using it with the Oculus, unfortunately. And there are employees who have the Quest. So it's unfortunate. They all ask me like, when is this going to start working with the Quest?
Yes. So when you say you want Oculus support, what you really want is Quest support.
Quest specifically. Well, that's their only headset now. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true.
So.
Oh, is Oculus not making any other headsets apart from Quest now?
No. I mean, they might, but I doubt it. I mean, they have the link cable, and then they'll probably head straight to wireless since that works pretty well too. So there's really no point in making two unless they really wanted to push the bar like what Valve does and what HP does, which is a smaller market, and I guess Facebook probably doesn't have interest in splitting resources like that. Yeah, I mean,
I thought I saw some YouTube videos that there was an Oculus. There's another version, or maybe a more hyped up version, or I don't know, a bigger version of the Oculus 2. Maybe it was just for enterprise or something.
oh, there is another segment of the market though. There are smaller groups that need or want virtual events, but they don't have like all the money of like say $50,000 to throw on a thing, you know, like a Fortune 500 company. But and yes, David, you're right. Yeah, they do still have the Rift S, except you know support's waning, and I don't think they're going to have a successor to that. Heck, the Rift S was one of those throwaway headsets they just threw out there. It was like a bone. So, you know, but yeah, there are segments of the market that are still, I feel like, underserved. So there's definitely places to maneuver into. For example, I was talking to the guy from Science Space, and they do break room. They're pretty big, and he was telling me that they just have way too much. They have way too much. They have to raise the price, and they can't really entertain something below a certain value because everyone's just asking for everything, which is cool, a cool problem to have, right? But then that also means that there are definitely going to be different organizations, companies, etc., that are not being served, that are not getting their virtual events put on. So yeah, so even if there's another platform that kind of gives something, there still may be someone that still needs something, and well, we could do that. But yeah.
I love how that duck just fell out of the sky right into the meeting. That's why we got that open spot in the top, right?
Yes, that's why we put it there.
You're giving us the duck wag. Yeah.
Yeah, what is going on?
Cool. Well, that was really the only sort of discussion I was thinking about having today, was just talking more about this. So it would be great to, if we, well, maybe we can continue the discussion in terms of if there was a company that was interested in doing a virtual event. It sounds like we would do something similar to what Steve organized and set up and ran for NDN World. Then it's just a matter of getting, if there are people willing to work on something like that. I wonder if we would get the same level of interest as what was it, Altspace, or what was the company you
I
spoke
said
to?
Science Space.
Oh, ScienceSpace.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I would say, I mean, we've actually done more than just NDN World. There was Startup Asia X was like the first one, and then we also did CEREC Asia and Startup Festa, and those also worked out pretty well. So yeah, I think that it's just a matter of getting more, like helping people find value in this. And I think one, if only actually the major barrier to entry is performance. I mean, because I want them to get value, so I tell them that, hey, you know, low spec isn't really going to have a great time on this. Then it's going to be like, okay, does that cut out half of our demographic? And are we going to like have half the attendance, quarter, fifth? Um, so I want to be able to know and confirm and tell people that, hey, yes, all your what would you call them? Your audience, yeah, your audience. You know, corporate or non-corporate, your whole audience that would be coming to your virtual world can attend. So even if they have a gaming computer from 2020 or an old laptop from 2015, they can attend. And if I could say that, I feel like we're in a lot better position, because then people would be a lot less hesitant, right? Because once they see the platform, they're like, yeah, this obviously looks better and just works better than anything else out there. But if I put in a barrier to entry, then it's just not great.
So should we build like a generic event space that could be themed and put logos on and stuff, and make that a general build to offer for, I don't know, companies that want to engage with us to do something like that?
Um, Possibly. I mean, we have spaces in a way. It depends on what kind of event, right? I don't think. I mean, it would be good for sales. We don't actually need a generic event space, though. Otherwise, it's just good to help with sales, really, because we could customize and make something really cool in general for a new event. I think it's just a matter of getting someone interested and finding out what they would like, basically.
Right, right. That's why I mean, I was just using, again, this as an example, this VEL, which is very low bar. And Steve, I don't know if you saw this. It was in the, I can put this link back in the thing for here if you want to look at it again, but as something to think about as a potential, you know, offering, or how you would organize it.
Yeah, I'd like to look at that.
I mean, from a sales standpoint, though, we could just grab pictures from previous events, right? Like NDN World, Startup Festa, which had a lot of attendees in World for that one, and use that as an example, because those worlds are still online. You know, they still exist. They're just not in the Explore app. So,
Right.
Hmm.
but yeah, I think the biggest thing that we have is performance, honestly. Of course, it's not the only thing. There's a lot of things I can imagine that we could improve, but if you had to pick one, right, it would probably be performance, because as you can imagine, and just accessibility in general. Because Dave, I'm sure you got really good feedback. You know, people we're interested. It looks cool. It's nice. It's kind of hard to convert them into, okay, now get in world, you know? So
Yes, yeah,
if
they
that's
get
the
that
distance.
conversion is, yeah, exactly. And there's a lot, I've been documenting like a lot of these pieces. Number one is again what Steve pointed out, getting the application signed would at least help a little bit. But like I created like a series of 5-minute videos internally for how to download the client, um, install it, uh, get your avatar set up, customize it, put a name in, how to get to our own internal hub, and start collaborating, how to create a web entity where you can share a screen. Like I created all these videos and to try to lower that bar to say, look, you don't even have to read a document, just watch my videos, because I mean that's how kids learn. Now they all just go to YouTube. So we have an internal YouTube kind of service, and I just put all these videos out there, and still I try to make it as easy as possible for people to get in, but still it just has not taken off at all. I think without it being a little bit easier to get past that installation stage and maybe getting it certified for our internal deployment mechanism would lower that barrier significantly. So those are other things I'm still looking into.
In part, yes.
Dave. Oh, you go first, Kalila.
Okay. I was gonna say that it depends on what they're coming in world for. If they're coming in for productivity, then it's probably not that great because all of a sudden they're just doing more work to do work, right? You're coming in here when you could have just gotten your work done faster with Zoom. You may not like Zoom, but at least you got it done faster. So you'd have to think about the value proposition, I think. Maybe the corporate space can and should be used for a little bit more entertainment, for, just the social aspect of things and less
Yeah,
collaboration. And then people
yeah,
might
that's
feel
what
like,
I
oh,
pitched it for
yeah.
first. Exactly. So so we have lots of like virtual on Fridays, virtual happy hours where people just get into Zoom and they just chat. It's kind of like the social hour. So I was like, hey, well, while you have this and I've got you here, why don't you give this a try? And I try to walk people through it, but it still isn't capturing as much imagination or interest as I thought. Like then I thought that would lead to people having more in-world kind of meetings. Like in my immediate team, they're, because I'm in there so often, that they love it and they're in there with me, and I have meetings, mostly just like one-on-one meetings, but I haven't been able to get like a real like group of 10, 15 people in yet into the environment, even selling it on the hey, let's just have a social happy hour, much less an actual like meeting where we're presenting things.
Dave, that's actually really good feedback, and thank you for going at it. Having a good run. I think that tells us a number of things. So, first of all, I think as a community, and we should continue going down this road, asking the question you're asking. Hey, how do we lower the barrier on the size of the app and how much computing resources it needs? I think that's a good one. The approach I'm starting to take, the idea that's starting to kind of form in my imagination is kind of parallel to what you're talking about, not instead of. But I've got Kim and Swaya sort of pivoted now to saying, let's not focus on all the old Swaya members. And old, I mean people who've just been around in the community for a while. And the same thing, artists. Let's focus on people who really dig this, who think it's cool, and also have an aptitude for trying something that's completely feels unfamiliar, and then also then the ones who finally have a computer that allows them to do it. And so I'm starting to focus on that kind of person without knowing exactly who they are. which means we don't get to go after, with that kind of mindset, we don't get to go after entire companies or whole markets. What we're ended up with is sort of a club within those groups. And I think that's sort of what you're describing too at your company when you said your own department or a few people are getting in there and they love it. And I'm starting to wonder, maybe that's how it starts, is the people who love it and have a computer who can get in. Yeah, early adopters, exactly. So I don't say this to sort of lower the ambition or to stop trying, but yeah, I'm going to start focusing on, rather than a big, and even how do we make money with it, rather than a big corporate initiative, go for the more clubbish kind of stuff. Like, hey, we won't say it, but it'll become apparent. This is something that not only are other people not doing much, but they also can't, which is a real, that's definitely a unique feeling. You know, it's like the people who adopted the internet, you know, before it was a thing, you know, in the prior to 1994. So anyway, just sharing that approach, and you and I have talked about how can we make this, how can we use this for business solutions, and I'm starting to think, yeah, it's a little bit, it's not really mainstream, I guess, and won't be for a while.
Yeah, thanks for that, Steve. That sometimes I get a little bit ahead of myself and thinking, and a little bit frustrated when things don't go the way that I was expecting things to go. But you're absolutely right. Building from a smaller base of people that are very interested in learning from that and sort of growing from that is probably the right path. And it's just funny because I've been in this space like 10 years ago doing exactly this, and we're still at that same spot. In 10 years, this has not grown, at least on the corporate or enterprise side. That's what's frustrating for me. But I completely agree with what you said, and I think I actually needed to hear that. So I'm glad you said it, because I'm going to try to focus then just on my team and the immediate people who are using it, and try to slowly grow from there.
Well, I've got some encouragement for you. First of all, you and I are starting in kind of in similar places. I don't go back as far as you, but you know, ever since I've known about this, it seemed obvious to me. If I was a corporate real estate guy, I would pivot to my board or executive team and say, guys, I want you to start dumping these leases and just get people computers that can handle it. You know, the price difference between a commercial lease and this is just insane. So I'm like you, I'm like, well, why isn't this obvious to people? But it's not. The thing is, as we're going for early adopters and as we're going for groups that love it and can get in, I think the world's going to catch up to us, because I don't think we're in exactly the same place as years ago, because you know, it's a regular occurrence for people to install this on a computer that they've bought within the last 3 or 4 years, and it works even without a GPU. They're having an acceptable experience. So I'm pretty excited by that. Sure, we're leaving people behind who have 4 and 5 year old computers and stuff like that. But if we can now that we're able to get a majority of users that have a relatively new computer, that's pretty freaking cool. So I think as we go for early adopters, the hardware world's going to catch up to us. So for example, M1 Macs, holy shit. Did you see the reviews on the M1 Mac Mini? Pretty darn powerful. And so, you know, that's a side of the world. Same thing on the PC side, other than Microsoft Surface. There's some problems there. But most PCs are catching up too. So anyway, I'll stop the speech, but there's going to be a little lag, but I'm pretty encouraged, man. The world's going to catch up to us.
You know, this completely agree. And this reminds me of this one item that was on our backlog for the longest time. And even though Darling is, I don't know if I'm sure she'll come back, but I wanted to give her credit for this. If we were to think about adoption just from a consumer level, which
Yeah.
which is kind of I think what you're getting at. The low level
Right.
computers now. It can run it even without a really fancy graphics card. But now that there is this Oculus Quest device, $300, $299, kids get it because they're just playing games. If there was a real easy way that we could get them into Vircadia through some kind of like we have here, plug and play, Raspberry Pi home server, domain server that could be very easily configured, kind of like a plug and play thing and connected to a domain, like that would, the social network effect of that would be huge if it's cheap and easy, and that's what a Pi is, and that's also kind of like what the Oculus Quest is.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that side of it. I was just a little bit bummed that the enterprise side of it is still not really taking hold yet, because those are the really interesting use cases when it comes to training, simulations, learning.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, it's got to be tough when the organization that you're working in, as a whole, isn't going to adopt the way it adopts Zoom or WebEx. But I still think there might be some opportunity for niche cases like you were describing. I've heard other people talk about niche cases where, just like with a training room where they're providing certain computers and stuff, there's potential solutions like that. But I don't know your business, but in other places where you need to sort of simulate things. Anyway.
Yeah, there was like I said, 10 years ago, I worked in this space on the enterprise side, and there was a lot of really interesting things going on, mostly in the research academics part. Maybe I'll share someday, or I have to try to dig up all that old information, and I'm not sure how far it's gotten since then. But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential on the consumer side. Sure, maybe we should focus more on that in the interim, while still tending to those early adopters on the corporate side.
There was the web took off. I remember when it first started coming around, I was dying, with a 64K and 128K modem, just wasn't quite doing it. And it seemed like a long wait until we finally broke into the cable modem, and that started changing things. Yeah, downloading was the worst part of it. And the same thing for the iPhone. I mean, I was pretty enthused, but I didn't buy one for a long time. And so it's the same deal. At the beginning of the web, why would I want to buy a book from some website? I can go down to the bookstore. Or with the iPhone, wow, that's cool, but I don't know. Why do I need to do more than call somebody? That was kind of the early reaction, apart from the early adopters, and I think it's coming. So I still live my life like, oh my God, I got to get ready. This is coming really fast.
Well, I must say though, like, has it ever really been in question? Maybe closer to 2016 it was, but I've always said that, it is going to happen. So the worry wasn't if it's going to happen or not. The worry has always been, are we going to be a part of that? Are we going to be able to help shape what that looks like? Because, as you can imagine, there were a lot of people early on in the internet days. Where's AOL, for example? What are they doing these days?
Right.
They were there, right? But they are not here now. And so the question is, what can we do to make our VR future better? And that's the whole point of this. So if we can get a foothold now, if we could figure out what it takes to be hitched to that train before it leaves the station, then I think we're good. So, like I said, I wouldn't be discouraged about VR. There's absolutely no logical reason to be discouraged about it. It's a guarantee. It's a guarantee. You could invest your money in that and make massive returns. I guarantee it. However, the problem is knowing what it takes to get to ride that wave. Because just like with the internet, smartphones, social networking, not everyone wins. Not everyone gets to rise to the top and be there when the dust settles. So the question is, what does it take for us to be part of that? That's, I think, the difficult question. Okay.
Well, thanks everybody for staying over 20 minutes over. Appreciate the discussion, and definitely going to be looking into a few things after this. Steve, did you have again questions you said on how I was sharing the screen, or?
Yeah, I do. Let's preface it by saying I knew you were working on it, and this has been a thing, so thank you very much. But because I haven't been able to come to these meetings much, I sort of lost touch as to what's the current state of screen sharing. I love what you're doing, and is it in a state where I can start doing it, or does it still take quite a lot of setup?
No, you can totally do this. This is very easy. So this is the WebRTC Chrome plugin that I use. Hey, Silverfish, I love the avatar. I'm a huge Futurama fan. So let me let me reshare my screen. So if you have Chrome, you can go to the plugin store and search for WebRTC.
Yep. Okay. Nice. I see it.
And you will see, yeah. So I just use. Let me make sure I'm calling it the right extension name. Manage extensions. So this is just called WebRTC Desktop Sharing. WebRTC P2P, HQ, HD. There's a couple of them out there, but I use the one that the title of it is called WebRTC Desktop Sharing. So you just install that Chrome extension. You might have to restart the browser, and it'll give you like a little. Once it's installed, it'll give you a little puzzle piece. Maybe I can try actually sharing that. Hold on. I stopped the share.
So this is on my local machine, right? As you're talking
Yes,
about.
this is on your local. Yep, on your local machine. You'll get like a little puzzle piece in your next to your address bar. When you click on that, then it shows you the extensions, and you'll see web. You can choose WebRTC desktop sharing, and then let me stop mine and see. And then it'll ask you, do you want to share your screen without audio, with microphone, speakers, and like a couple different things. I just choose screen without audio, and then it gives you this kind of. It's funny. It's actually very similar to the Hi-Fi screen share, original screen share app, where it gives you a interface that says, do you want to share your entire desktop screen or maybe an individual application window? And I just then go to application window and I choose my browser and I click share, and then it'll give you a URL. You just cut and paste that URL, put it into the web prim, and that's it. Your screen is now being that web tab or that browser application. Like I use, I just share my Mozilla, any tab in there, then it just it's interactive. So you can go ahead and do that if you want to just.
That's
go
amazing.
ahead.
Here's what kills me though. So what is it that makes it possible that wasn't possible before? I walk into the room and I can see what you're sharing without having to do anything.
Because you're loading this is like a web browser kind of desktop sharing application. So, and it is compatible with the web entity that we have here. Oh, and now he just walked out.
Yeah.
Oh, there he goes.
Sorry.
You backed up too far.
Yeah.
So it is it's actually this it's just streaming the desktop through a WebRTC protocol, and you can do it in any browser. Very similar to what Kalila's web share application was, or it's well, I mean, I guess it's a little bit different. That's streaming an MPEG stream, and you have to have a player kind of or something to. Then she has a application side which renders that stream.
Well, it's all done in the browser. I mean, it's all shown in the browser. Sorry. So it works the exact same way for the end user.
So if I put up a web entity, and just slap that URL in, it's going to work.
Yep. Yeah. So if you want to share, you could share your desktop right now, or share your browser right now, and just edit the screen that I have at the front there, and pop in that URL the WebRTC plugin gives you. It'll give you in a little window. You just cut and paste that, throw it in, and you're off and going.
I'm too slow for these kinds of things, but I will come back. I promise to give it a shot. This is pretty cool. Wow, that's insane. So that knocks down a huge barrier. What are the limitations, and how did you land here instead of the elaborate OBS thing that you were doing before?
Oh, well, this is a lot simpler. This is, I mean, the WebRTC is really, I would say, for like smaller groups of people. I think Kalila has mentioned this before. If you've got like a large, well, if you've got, because you're basically reading a stream from my computer directly. If we use the screen share that Kalila developed, you could host your own streaming server somewhere else, so it doesn't have to consume your bandwidth. You know, maybe you're on a constraint on a home network that doesn't have a lot of upload speed, and you could offload that to a different server, and then you could basically you stream your stream to that server, and that server is the relay, and it relays the stream out to all of the clients that then connect to it. So if you want to have a 50-person meeting, you'd probably want to use the screen share. If you had a 10-person meeting, it's probably easier just to use WebRTC plugin.
That's cool.
And correct me if I'm wrong on any of that, Kalila.
I mean, it's true, yeah. I think WebRTC could be bounced around between clients, but I don't see it in use often. I mean, WebRTC just got accepted as an official thing. So, yeah, if you want to share to like a lot of people, you're going to want to use a restreaming server.
Cool. I've seen you do this a few times, Dave, and I'm just always wanted to blurt out, oh, how I want to do this. So, by the way, we're talking webrtc-experiment.com. It looks like the guys that are.
It might be, yeah. Let me.
I see the WebRTC desktop sharing. That's where I am in the Chrome store. But
yeah, it is them. Yeah. So WebRTC desktop sharing is the title of the app. Yep.
Oh, so this knocks down potentially. Being overly simplistic, but this potentially knocks down one of the big barriers. All right, so yeah, I'm going to mess around with this.
So the other big barrier that Kalila knocked down was, which will come out in, I guess, the next release. Hopefully, in the next release, is this the being able to set the user agent string in the web entity, which would allow you to do, now I don't even need to share my screen. If I wanted, both you and I could work on the same spreadsheet, on the same presentation, at the same time, collaboratively on using one web entity.
Whoa, that's huge. Yeah. This is something, because we can do this with Google Docs. Yeah, yes, I've always wondered why.
Yeah, so that's going to be a big one. When that
Whoa! All right, what's going in? What changes are going in to make that possible? I'm just curious. This is big.
The protocol break. So the new release, I put in the ability to switch user agents, and that basically tells Google Docs that, hey, I'm on a desktop. Please load the desktop site for me, and it will. And then on the desktop site, you're able to edit just like you would in the normal browser. So you'd be able to collaboratively like edit Google Docs, Sheets, or whatever in World, theoretically. I didn't test it myself, but I didn't know it works.
I'll test it.
Well,
this is okay. This is pretty good stuff. Yeah, I'll just test the use case. All right, awesome. Yeah, this is all right. I'm not going to waste. We're at the end of the meeting. I'm not going to go on and on. But thank you for those gems, Dave. That's really all I wanted to ask. I did have a comment for you on a different subject, but I want to be quiet in case there's something else you want to tell me.
No, that's it. So actually, Kalila, have we thought about what we want to make the default user agent string to maybe be compatible when you first create the web entity, or do you think that's not a good idea? Like I don't know what we set the default to.
I kept the defaults as they always have been, which is Android, because I understand the reason for doing that. It's so that things work well with VR. You emulate Android, and since VR is being emulated through touch, that makes sense to try and have websites load their Android version if there is one. but you know, being able to change it, I think, is really good.
Okay, no, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And I like
Dave,
the touch aspect. Like I can scroll the screen right now, the web entity that's up there, the Vircadia website, just by touching it. But I guess if I change it to like my desktop Chrome user agent string, I would lose that capability, and I'd only be able to scroll using the arrow keys or something.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that because there's input modes as well. So hold on, let me just switch this web entity that we have here to mouse events, and it might very well just stop working. Yeah, look, I switched it. Now it's selecting text instead. You
Oh,
see?
you're right.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and that's because I switched it to what's it called? Mouse events. If you go to the web's properties, there's input mode, touch events, and mouse events. Now I put it back. Now you can scroll again. So what the user agent changes is how the website gives you features and how the website reacts to you. But that input mode is actually within Vircadia, how it interacts with the web engine like it's a web browser and a touchscreen kind of thing.
Gotcha. Cool. Makes sense.
Yep. So shall I cut the recording? I was recording.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can.
Yep.
Thank you for streaming.
Ah, record.